Okay, and welcome to this CLP based on the organic growth model and strategy instilled here at Wolfpack AFC. We're going to go through the purpose, the objectives, the outcomes, our uniqueness, and some little insights into what our model and strategy is and why we apply this here at our club. So, as we get into this CLP, the purpose of our organic growth model and strategy is to grow periodically compared to other existing clubs in the area and new clubs that have been established in somewhat the same time frame as us within the last 10 months to a year and a half. There's a lot of demand for players at the moment, and there's a lot of push for recruitment. So we want to stand out and have the impact of each of our stakeholders. So that means that we want them to impact us and we want to impact them. So without stacking high compared to the other clubs who are on a high recruitment drive because suddenly they want sixes, seven, eights, nines, and tens within the next 6 months. If it takes us 6 months to establish one age group and we're able to have an impact on our philosophy, culture, environment, our uniqueness, the fact that the Wolfpack philosophy stands out in each and every one of our stakeholders, from player to parent to family to carer and so on, just from one player becoming a member at our club, then that's what our organic growth model and strategy is. So we want to stand out and be different because we're not on a high drive to get loads of players in really quickly. It's all about naturally growing organically, allowing us to impact each individual that becomes part of our club, and that we're building the foundations and long-term legacy for what the Wolfpack philosophy is. So we're going to impact parents, players, families, other key stakeholders that are invested in us. So as they invest in us, we're going to create that investment in them, and we're going to instill our Wolfpack mentality, our philosophy, our principles, our standards, our values in each of our stakeholders so that we can maintain our culture and ethos as we grow collectively. The impact: by organically growing through natural growth and opportunities presented both internally and externally, our club will grow and build organically with prosperous growth over time. We have a vision, and if there's a delay on the vision, i.e., from 5 years to 7, then it means we're working to perfect our model. So even though we may have a vision of, i.e., having everything from under 6s to under 12s, for example, and we want this done within 5 years, if there's a delay and it extends till 7 years, we haven't got a problem with this. We're quite happy for this vision to extend, although we don't want it to say extend to 10 years because then we'd have to look at why it's been extended to 10 years, what the delays are, whether there's any barriers, or what our obstacles are, because if it's delaying us that much, then there are considerations about this growth model. However, if there is a delay, i.e., from 5 years to 7 years, then that means that we're having a bigger impact on each of our stakeholders and we're working to grow the club from what already exists and create those foundations to continue building around with what we have. Now, when we talk about internally and externally, if there's an external opportunity that is presented to us, i.e., a sponsor says, look, I got some money, here's enough to start a team up, then we can look at setting a team up based around sponsorship opportunities externally, or whether this opportunity internally, i.e., we have an under 12s, they have a younger brother who say may be 5 years of age. Then we may look at setting up an under 6s for their brother so they can remain part of the club and come through the system, and allowing their older brother to become the role model in the process. And we build this family enterprise for our club. So that's an internal opportunity that may be presented, and that's how we organically grow and start founding teams. And obviously from an under 6s, then there'll be 5s, and then there'll be tots and underneath, which would allow us to organically grow from something that already exists. So without us going, right, we're going to set up under 4s next year because we want under 4s, because there's an opportunity for us to go, right, we're going to set under 4s up because there's an under 5s and under 6s and so on. So we want to build off the platform and objectives that we've already attained, allowing us to grow organically. The outcomes of this is to maintain and develop investment into the Wolfpack mentality, philosophy, and culture from all of our stakeholders. We want to grow periodically, maintaining our principles and standards. Now, where there has been a lot of new clubs that are set up in a geographical area within the same time frame as us, they don't have a culture, an environment, a philosophy, a mentality as such compared to ours. And that's why it's important for us to instill this in each of our stakeholders. So when we've attracted new players within the last few months, they're already aware of what we do off the pitch and how we focus around mentality and culture, and that it's a family-based environment. And they've already said that without seeing us, i.e. winning cups or having a long-term legacy compared to some of the other clubs that exist in Newport in our geographical area because of this. So we want to build a reputation that attracts stakeholders and players, families and carers to look at us as a club because of the impact that we have on each of our young people and our players, and that we're creating a long-term investment in them, creating a family and a club that is going to be a lifetime commitment and opportunity to remain part of something even after their youth years have finished, for example. And we want to maintain these foundations and the culture and the mentality in each of our players as they come through the door. And it'd be really difficult to do this with 100 players in the space of 6 months compared to doing it with 10 players. So over 6 months with 10 players, we're able to get this instilled. We're able to work closely with them. We're able to provide every opportunity available. We're able to build for the future. So, for example, in 6 months, we could look at training sessions, registration of a team, getting a kit together, finding a sponsor, setting up a training program, looking at how we develop the coaches, the investment in them. However, whereas if we had 100 players, we had so many teams, then we'd have to look at cutting back on certain areas because the investment would be too high in contrast to the amount of players. So we want to organically grow to further impact each of our squads periodically. So squads are receiving that support, they're set up, they have a training kit, they have a playing kit, their coaches are qualified, there's a training program in place, there's a budget, they're able to go on a trip, for example. And then we can look at the next team, and then the foundations for the teams grow. So we maintain all those principles of the fact that if they need to renew a training kit, we have the opportunity and resource to do that. Because we're sustainable and we have the contacts and we've built in the sponsors to support each of our teams. Whereas if we had too many teams at one time, then we'd have to look at cutting back on trips so we could fund training kits here and there. And therefore, we wouldn't impact each of our players and give them that experience that we want. We don't just want to stack high on players here and just be on about training and games. We want to provide trips, we want to provide experiences, we want to provide Q&As, we want to provide insights, mentality, we want to build in a culture, a philosophy, we want to provide mentoring, and we want to do so much on the pitch and off the pitch. And that's why it's really important for us to organically grow, to impact and do this with each of our stakeholders and each of our players. Because if we had too many players and too many coaches, it'd be really difficult to instill this over a period of time. Whereas if we organically grow, then we're adding to the culture, we're building on the foundations that we have, and we're able to embed coaches into the coaching curriculum and what our expectations are. We're able to instill and embed players in terms of the playing program, what's expected of them, and same with families, parents, carers, and so on. We're able to continue to build a reputation periodically because we're impacting each of our players, and we want to build on this family mentality. We want to build on all the off-field stuff that we do, as mentioned. So it's really important for us to maintain that because we can overflood our pint glass as such, and therefore the culture and philosophy becomes diluted, and therefore the high expectations and principles that we're building and looking to maintain to create a long-term legacy won't have its impact or full potential, and therefore we have gone in a negative route. The further outcomes is to provide existing and new opportunities, as I've just mentioned, to all players without being limited on impact, especially on contact time with players. And we want to identify and recruit club personnel that fit into the club profile and culture, contributing to the growth of the club. That should say club recruitment, sorry. But in terms of that, we want to have the right people who come through, the people that buy and invest in us in terms of our coaching personnel and who wants to work with us. It's really important that they fit in our club profile, that they understand that this is a family environment and it's not just on the pitch stuff that matters. So if we got a coach who wants to give up time, that's all well and great. But if they're just caring about results and training, and they're not looking at CLPs, and they're not looking at the behind the scenes stuff and looking to instill the Wolfpack mentality, then it's really important that we find a coach and a lead that can utilize that coach in a certain way to deliver training and games, but that we have the coaches on board that will have that buy-in to impact each of our players. We're not just a club. We want players to come through the door and we've ticked our boxes. We want players to remain long-term, remain part of our family. And it's really important for us to get players through the door and to remain part of our club, and that the Wolfpack mentality is instilled. And it's all about Wolfpack, 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 and maintaining that message and pushing it, that we're honouring the past, that we're challenging the future, that we're honest, committed, hard-working, that we have self-belief and companionship. And this fits in with our Wolfpack player profile, which outlines some values that we want to instill in each of our players within our training sessions, as well as around the environments that we have, i.e. if we have a club trip and we have so many age groups growing, that people recognise our players because of these values, and they would say that about our players. So the strategy aims at embedding stakeholders such as players, parents, family members, etc. into the club's mentality, the culture, the philosophy and principles. We want to instill the Wolfpack philosophy, creating long-term foundations to support the growth of the club. We want to impact each of our stakeholders. So we want to ensure each player understands what it means to play for the Wolfpack and exactly what the Wolfpack mentality is. The fact that we're a club built around honesty, commitment, hard work, self-belief, companionship, and being a family on and off the field. All stakeholders will support the growth of the club. Now, we can have many stakeholders that will support us, and we all have a big capacity as we grow as a club in terms of all our stakeholders. But the importance that they buy in and support the growth of the club is essential. So it's not just turning up for training and getting games. It's the fact that they're supporting the club events, that they're helping fundraise, that they're instilling this Wolfpack mentality, that their child is buying into everything that we need them and want them to buy into, that the fact that they understand that they're part of the Wolfpack, they're not just part of a football club, they're part of a Wolfpack as well. So even if they decided to leave the football club because, i.e., their child stopped playing football and went to rugby, that they'd always have the opportunity to return, that they'd always be welcome on club events, that the family's always there for them, that we support them because they're part of our Wolfpack, and our Wolfpack is our extended family. And even if a player did leave a club for whatever reason, the Wolfpack would always exist and this would always be their family. So even when we talk about the grass isn't greener on the other side always, if they decided to leave, then we want them to realise that the Wolfpack is built around this and the importance of the Wolfpack mentality. So the objective of the organic growth model and strategy is to ensure the buy-in and investment from all our stakeholders, demonstrating, in return, the club's support and impact on each of its stakeholders. We want to ensure that relationships are developed for the long term, with the Wolfpack being at the centre. So our uniqueness. In contrast to new clubs who have set up across our geographical area, we're unique as we don't want to set up, i.e. under 5s to 10s within a 6-month period and have over 100 players. We'd prefer to have one age group and 10 players embedded into our vision, philosophy and culture in a 6-month period, having a bigger impact and purpose on each of these players. We don't want to stack players high, and we want to be a club based on. We don't want to be a club based on getting loads of players through the door, unless they're embedded into the Wolfpack mentality and vision. We want to impact and work with every stakeholder, getting to know them for exactly who they are, and that is a family club built on a foundation of a legacy. The club was established on the basis of being a legacy club for all our stakeholders. A club that provides a lifetime opportunity to remain part of the Wolfpack family that will live on forever. We're more than just a club, we're a family. We want to get to know everyone personally, and we can't do that if we stack up. So with the opportunities on and off the field, we expect all of our stakeholders to buy in and be committed to all of our club events, opportunities on and off the field. Opportunities include training, matches, mentoring, mindfulness, Q&As, topical learning, feedback, trips, events, and much more. And it's really important that it's part of our cubs. As a player comes through and becomes a cub, and we have this Wolfpack mentality and family that everyone's instilled and bought into these on and off the field events. And that is really important to be involved behind the scenes and be much more than just on the pitch. We have united strength. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and for the strength of the wolf is the pack. And that is part of our big belief. So this is one of our key sayings, our key motto, along as well as understanding that we're honouring the past and challenging the future for all of our values that we've instilled. And if any player left and they had to say about the Wolfpack, then we want them to repeat this motto and understand exactly for what it is. So we want this motto to be across within each of our messages. We want all of our players to understand, and all of our stakeholders, our parents, our sponsors, to understand what the Wolfpack is, that they're united together and that they're part of a family. So even because they're just a sponsor at times, and clubs just provide them with this and that, and they provide a club, we want them to know that they're more than welcome to come on events and trips. They're more than welcome to help us fundraise. They're more than welcome to come to presentations and so forth. They're more than just a sponsor. They're part of a Wolfpack. They're part of a family, and that's what makes us unique. So this is what our Wolfpack mentality is. And this is how we look at our organic growth strategy and model. So this is what we want to instill in each of our stakeholders. And this is something that I want us as personnel to look at for each and every stakeholder. So that, for example, we set up the under-10s just before last year, before August. They're now coming up to almost a year in a few months' time. But before that, they were embedded into the Wolfpack mentality. There was training which allowed contact every week. It allowed the team to form and then grow. And now they're part of the norm. So we stormed away with this great idea. We formed it, we've grown it, and now there's a norm that the team are part of our Wolfpack. And if the opportunity presents us to create an under-9s under them, then that's what we're going to do. But we've done exactly the same now with the 12s. So the exact same approach that we took with the 10s is now working with the 12s. That's going to be set up in September, where there's a few months of training. Then we look at registrations. We enter the team in the league, and then everything else comes naturally. Providing kit, looking at sponsorship, getting coaches on board, and getting the team playing in the league, which is exactly what we've done with the 10s, which has been part of our organic growth. So within the space of a year, we got 10s, 11s, 12s. On the back of that, I'd like to have under 9s and then potentially the under 13s, which then above the under 12s. And then I'd like us to look at tots because they're all the opportunities that currently exist internally. So then it's about us building on this Wolfpack mentality and maintaining that we're getting the right personnel, the right coaches on board, that they're understanding the CLP, that they're being supported, that the club is sustainable, and that we have all the budgeting in place. And that's how I want us to grow. So this is an insight into our Wolfpack mentality, and in terms of our organic growth strategy and model. There will be further support of how we look at this in more detail, but this is more of a generic overview and understanding of what it is. But I look forward to a more in-depth analysis of our organic growth model using examples of what's happened in our existing age groups and how this fits in line with our vision. But other than that, that's it from me. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this CLP. As always, Coach Luca, part of the Reflective Coach podcast, chairman here and head of coaching at Tredegar Park Wolfpack AFC. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed listening.